Hi there and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new here. I've been getting heaps more questions about immigrating to New Zealand, and I hope nobody sees me as any kind of an expert. Like, the only experience I have of moving to New Zealand is my own, and we only did that once, so not an expert at all, but I will do my best to answer your questions anyway. So the first set of questions, I've kind of tried to group them into categories. So the first set is about equality. So I've had questions about being a woman in New Zealand and, the equality situation. I have never felt oppressed in any way, and I feel like the equality is as good as it's going to get anywhere. Of course, we still don't have full equality anywhere in the world that I know of, but yeah, being a woman in New Zealand, you're not going to be oppressed. There is at least some equality, or we are striving for equality here, and that's not going to be a problem. Your gender is not going to be a problem. And along those lines, I had a question: do you know anything about being LGBTQ plus in New Zealand? Just about how they are generally perceived by the people there. New Zealand's just generally laid back and inclusive and tolerant, and you just show up as you are and it's fine, you're accepted. In fact, wasn't New Zealand one of the first countries, if not the first country, to legalize gay marriage? There you go, it's fine. I had some questions about health. Why there is a health exam as part of your residency or visa application, and what do they look for? And this information is right there on the immigration website. If you want to look it up, I'll link it down below. Basically, they want to know that you're not going to be a health danger to anybody else in New Zealand, that you're not going to end up costing the health system a lot of money, and that you are able to fulfill the work or study requirements of your visa, that you're well enough to do that. So that's what your health exam is about. So don't panic if you have asthma or if you have allergies or whatever. It's just to see that you're not, severely ill or needing a lot of care, that sort of thing. You're not contagious. So that's what the chest x-rays are about. I don't know if everybody has to get chest x-rays. I know that if you come from South Africa, or we were South African citizens, we had dual citizenship with, well, we still do, with Britain. We were required to get chest x-rays because they see Africa and they think TB. So I don't know, maybe it's standard, but I know that when we entered England, we also had to have chest x-rays as part of our health exam. I was asked what the medical expenses in New Zealand are like. Now, you can get private medical insurance if you want to, but you don't need to. Medical care is largely free. If you go and have a baby, all of your hospital costs are covered, your prenatal, postnatal care, all that sort of thing. Children get free medical care up to age 16. Hang on, I wrote down my GP fees. Okay, so for a GP visit, if you're 0 to 16, it's free. If you're 17 years old, it's $11.50 that you pay when you go and visit the GP for an appointment. If you're 18 to 64 years, it's $17. And if you're 65 to 74 years, it's $10, and over 75 is free. Now, this is just my GP practice. That's what their fees are. That varies from area to area. There is a $5 prescription fee for subsidized medication. If it's not a subsidized medication, then you pay more. But other than that, if you have hospital care or anything like that, or if you need, surgery for something, that's free. Children get free eye tests and dental care, I believe, up to age 16, but not orthodontics. So we have one child who has braces, and that is costing us, I think it's $210 a month or $200 a month for 2 years. So that's what his orthodontics are costing. Both of my kids have had to have supernumerary teeth, so they had bonus teeth in their mouth that had to be removed, and we didn't pay for any of that. That was free. And that was done under general anesthetic. Okay, I've had a question or two about jobs and education. So somebody was saying they've looked for jobs online and they're trying to apply, but of course they're not getting very far because they're not actually in the country, but then they can't actually enter the country because they don't have a job. So it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation. And they asked, for my opinion, how do they go about resolving this? Now, I'm not saying this is what you should do. I just know that this is what a lot of people that we know have done. Now, my husband got his job. He applied for his job from England and got the job before we came to New Zealand. we could not get residency without him having a job. We didn't have enough points. So that's how he did it, and I've covered that in previous videos. But most of the people we know, in fact, I would even say all of the immigrants that we know, came over here on holiday visas, which is 3 months, and you can extend that twice, so that gives you 9 months to find a job. Like I said, I'm not telling you that you should do that or that that's a recommended way of going about it, but that's how people we know have got around that situation. They had enough money to cover their living expenses, or they stayed with somebody while they looked for jobs. They came over on a holiday visa, but they were not on holiday. They were full-time looking for jobs. Got jobs, got settled. So that's just how we know it's been done. Like I said, I'm not telling you to do it that way. Now, I have had one work outside the home job since we've been in New Zealand. I worked for a shoe store, and as part of my application for the job, I included my work permit, like the fact that I had residency and was allowed to work in New Zealand. And I was later told that that is one of the reasons I got the job, is that I included that. They didn't have to go looking for that. They didn't have to wait for me to get permission to work. So you know, you could be here looking for a job on a holiday visa and they go, but you don't have a right to work in New Zealand, and it's not going to help you get the job anyway. So I don't know. You'll just have to decide what's best for you to do. If you work through an agency, they will help you with all of these kind of things. They will be able to get you to visit New Zealand on a visa that allows you to look for work, something like that. So it may be worth speaking to a professional if you're struggling, and I've linked New Zealand Shores down below. Ask for Sarah Crome, she's awesome. That is an agency you can trust, because I have heard horror stories about people who have used agencies and they've turned out to not be legit and ended up having to do all the work themselves in the end anyway, after paying them a lot of money. So New Zealand Shores is not like that. They are a legit agency and you can trust them, and that is why I recommend them. So for education, I was asked, how does the quality of higher education in New Zealand compare to Europe? And it compares very favorably. I will link you down below to a page that you can read about that. I was asked about schooling and university costs. Now, we're not quite at the university stage, so I can't help you with that. I don't know what university costs are. I would have to Google them, same as you. As for schooling costs, you're looking at around, well, our son's high school donation is $100 a year, and it's considered a donation. Everybody pays it, it's school fees, but it is called a donation, so I guess you're not legally bound to pay it. So that's $100 a year, and then we pay $125 on top of that for resources. So that's for computer access and books and that kind of thing, stationery and that. So that also varies enormously from school to school. At some schools you'll pay nothing, and at some schools obviously you'll pay more. So that's just a ballpark figure. The next set of questions is about adjusting. Now, I had a question that said, does New Zealand make you feel like home, or do you miss South Africa often? Now, I left South Africa 17 years ago. I left South Africa right at the end of 1999. So I don't even really think about it anymore, honestly. I was obviously homesick at first when we moved to England, and I missed South Africa, and well, I missed the people really. And now it's been long enough that I just never really think about South Africa at all. If I get homesick, I get homesick for England, but that doesn't mean I still want to live there. So yes and no. New Zealand is home, definitely. We feel settled. This is where I'm going to spend the rest of my days. We love New Zealand. New Zealand is home, but sometimes I still get homesick for England. But it's not that I want to be there, it just is that I miss some things and some people and some experiences, or I get nostalgic for our time there. And the word often, do you miss South Africa? Often. And like I said, it's England that I miss, not South Africa, and it's not often. It's less and less often the longer we live here, and yeah, it's not often at all. The first few years, especially at Christmas time, I got really homesick, and that just didn't happen this year. I didn't get homesick. I haven't been homesick for a while, or really been nostalgic for England for a while. So it does get better, even if you are crippled with homesickness when you first arrive in a new country. It does get better, I promise. I was asked, is it worth leaving all your family and friends behind and going to a country in the middle of nowhere, and have you ever regretted it? Not for a minute, not for a single minute, not even in the worst of my homesickness have I regretted it. It has been so worth it. Was it worth leaving all our family and friends and going to a country in the middle of nowhere? Okay, when we left our family and friends the first time, like proper, we left our families, was when we moved to England. And it was definitely worth it because the situation in South Africa, we didn't see a future for our children. At the time we didn't have children, but we knew we wanted a family and we knew there was no future there for them. That's our opinion. You may feel differently, but we just didn't see a future in South Africa, well, for ourselves either. And just the crime and, okay, I won't go into all of that, but it was definitely worth it. It was really hard. Of course it's hard leaving family and friends and everything you've ever known, really, but we were thinking about our children that weren't born yet. But you know, you do anything for your kids, or we say we'd do anything for our kids, and we did. We wanted to give them a better future than they would have in South Africa, and so we chose to make that sacrifice. And for ourselves as well. Like, it's not just about for our kids, it was for ourselves as well. So no regrets, and moving to New Zealand, honestly, one of the hardest but one of the best things I've ever done in my life. So no regrets at all, not even for a minute. I'm not saying that the same will be true for you, but I was asked about my experience and that was it. So I was asked, how is South Africa different to New Zealand, or how is New Zealand different to South Africa? And one of the ways is the weather is more temperate. We don't have that extreme heat and dry. Well, in Cape Town the summers are dry, you don't have rain. Obviously in the northern parts of the country you have summer rain, but we have very changeable weather and it is much more temperate. I'm filming this beginning of January and obviously it's summertime and it's raining and it's cool today. So you're not going to have those high temperatures for months out of the year. The weather's quite changeable and it can be cloudy a lot and it's not as hot. The winters are quite similar though. Well, at least to Cape Town where I lived. So the Maori name for New Zealand is Aotearoa, and that means land of the long white clouds. So that should give you a clue that the clouds are going to be coming and going. It's not going to be just blue skies for 9 months out of the year like it is in Cape Town. The other ways that New Zealand is different to South Africa is it is the safest country in the world. You cannot get more different to South Africa in that respect. It is safe here, kids can walk to school. I've often come home from running errands in town and realized I left the back door wide open, and it's not a problem. I wouldn't recommend doing that, but you're not going to panic that someone's in your house waiting to kill you like you would in South Africa. So yes, the safety here, it may take you a while if you're coming from South Africa to get used to feeling safe, but you can feel safe here. As for other ways that it's different, I can't even really think of any because it's been so long since I lived in South Africa, but that's the main one, is safety. And then the weather can be different. So if that extreme heat matters to you, you might be disappointed with the weather here. I had a few questions about shipping goods over. Somebody asked me which shipping service we used, and we used PSS, and they were fine. They took every last day of the 12 weeks that they had said. They'd said, I think they'd said 9 to 12 weeks or 6 to 12 weeks. Yeah, it took 12 weeks, every last day of it. But we had no problems with their service. The packing was good, the unpacking was good, everything went smoothly, and that is who we used. I was also asked by somebody who looked at the huge list of banned imported goods and she saw on their children's nightwear, and that rang a vague bell. We didn't have any problems. We just brought everything. In fact, I think we asked the shippers and they were like, it's fine. So we brought all of our clothes, plus I had put together a children's clothing bank basically of every age going forward up to age 12 to 13. And at the time, my eldest was 10. So I had boxes and boxes of clothes that I had stocked up for the kids, and I will link a blog post below about that. It was the best thing I did. We had no problems. We had no problems with children's nightwear. I don't know why that's on the list. I think they're thinking of like cheaply produced flammable goods from China or something. I don't know. But bringing your own clothes and things over, don't worry about it. I was also asked about bringing power tools and if we brought our power tools over. And we brought our drill, but we didn't really have a lot of power tools. We brought our circular saw and our drill, and the rest we've bought here. So I think if they're clean, it's not a problem, but we just didn't have a lot to bring. Property. I was asked again about property websites, which I will link down below. The property websites I would recommend, I think it's Real Estate and Trade Me, to look for rental or properties to buy. And I was asked about, can we get hold of any property loans? I'm sure you can, but you'll have to talk to your bank about that. And then I was also asked about finding property that you can have pets with you if you're renting. You're gonna struggle. I'm sorry, but you're gonna struggle. In fact, the person who asked has a lot of pets and they're really gonna struggle because most rental landlords especially if they go through an agency, say no pets. Now, our last house that we were renting was in Auckland, and after we'd been living there for a while and kind of the landlord got to know that we were good tenants, we approached them through the agency asking if we could have chickens, and he said that's fine, so we got our chickens. And later we asked if we could have a dog, and we were told that yes, we could have a dog so long as the dog was an outside dog. So she slept outside. Obviously she came in during the day, or spent time with us as a family, but she was considered an outside dog, so we were given permission, and there were all things we had to sign and everything. I'm not sure if we had to pay extra on our security deposit or not, but that could be something that you're asked to do if you are allowed pets. So to start with, you probably are going to really struggle to find a place that will allow you to have pets, but you may be able to get permission later once you've proved yourself as a tenant. I was asked some general questions, including questions about the weather and the climate. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, New Zealand's climate generally, and it depends where you live, is very temperate. It doesn't get too cold in the winter and it doesn't get too hot in the summer, which we really enjoy. If you like the extremes, you might not enjoy that, but I feel like there's somewhere for everybody. You can go to a warm part of the country, you can go to a part that snows if you like that in winter, so it's up to you. We live in South Taranaki, and our winters, last winter was pretty mild. The winter before was brutal, so it can get cold, but you're not going to go very many degrees below 0 Celsius, and that won't be often. That would be a cold snap. In the summer, like I said, you're not going to get up to 30 very often. If you do, it's like, oh, heat wave. We're generally early 20s in the summer Celsius, and when we start getting 25, 26, that's like, wow, this is hot. Because you do adjust to the climate as well. The weather can be very changeable. Like I mentioned, it's raining today, we're in the middle of summer, but then tomorrow might be blazing hot with the sun shining. You just don't know. So you have to just be flexible and work around the weather, really. I once kept track. I've got like a tracker on my phone, like a tracker app, and I marked yes on the tracker if we saw the sun that day. And out of 3 months, I think there were 5 or 6 days that we didn't see the sun. Now, some of those days, the sun might have peeked out for 5 minutes and gone again, but we saw the sun every single day. In England, there were times where we went 6 weeks without seeing the sun. So it's like the default setting in New Zealand is that the sun wants to come out. I was asked about TV programs to recommend, and I think they're meant to show life in New Zealand. I don't really watch TV, so TV programs that you might find interesting if you are planning on immigrating is Wanted Down Under. I've mentioned it before, you can find them on YouTube. It's a BBC program that takes families who are thinking of immigrating to New Zealand or Australia, and they take them there for a week to check out housing and jobs and lifestyle and schools, and then they make a decision which is better, life back in England or Scotland or wherever in the UK, or life in New Zealand or Australia. So like I said, some of them are Australian, some are New Zealand, so they are really fun to watch. They do seem to be very much centered in Auckland, and then people are like, oh, the cost of housing is too expensive here, and it's like, look elsewhere in the country then. But so that's a bit frustrating that they just show Auckland, not always, but most of them. So bear that in mind, that it's not as shockingly expensive everywhere, but you might enjoy that program. And then the last question is about car. It's called a WOF here, Warrant of Fitness. So in England it's an MOT. It's your yearly costs. It used to be, I think it used to be every 6 months, and now it's yearly, and it's $50 for us to get our car basically warranted for the year. And I will link down below a website that you can check out about getting a WOF. And I think that's all of the questions for now. So I hope this was helpful. Please check out the playlist of other videos like this in which I've answered other questions. Before submitting a question, it may have already been answered, but if you have any new questions, feel free to leave them below in a comment, or pop me an email, or find me on Facebook or Instagram, and I will put it together in my next video and try and answer your question. So all the best if you are in the midst of your journey to New Zealand or planning on immigrating. I wish you all the best with your adventure, and thank you for watching. I will see you next time.